I'm here to talk to you tonight, and you're going to listen.
Well, it's not as direct and forward as the things you hear on the radio. We therefore don't get quite as much airplay as, say, Springsteen or Prince or whatever. I think it's something that you have to think about a little bit more than most rock and roll bands, and you have to be willing to listen in a new way. You can't hear the words and be able to guess what the next line is, and you can't guess the chord changes, really. Not that we're that original, but we're not the type of kind of mass-produced stuff that you hear.
It's not like Flavor of the Week. I would like to think that in 10 years' time I can listen to our records and feel like I really did something.
Do you think the audience for REM can get wider? Because there seems to be an increased push by IRS, the record company, to do that.
I'd like to think that there's really no limit to our audience, but I think that it's kind of a matter of people accepting us as we are, because we're not really willing to change to fit radio format or whatever. So, but I think that, the way the times are in music right now, things are kind of shifting that way anyway.
Do you still consider yourself to be underground?
I do, very much.
It's funny, because all of our friends are in bands that probably are. I mean, literally, they starve, and they play these clubs that are sometimes underground, and, drive around in vans. And so sometimes I feel a little removed from that. But then all I have to do is see some of the mega productions that the big bands put on, how many records that these major bands sell and what they do and what they say and how they act. And I feel, we're definitely out of the mainstream. And definitely, our alliances are definitely not with the bands that you see on the top 40 charts. I think that it's healthy for us to feel that we have an adversarial relationship with the media and with, not the media as people, writers, but, the radio stations and video things. That we're on the outside looking in. We have to work in our own way as opposed to working in the way that's accepted in the business. If we sell 1 million records, I'll still feel kind of on the outside. When the world is, it's full of choices and things to do and ways to look and ways to sound. And there's a limited amount of things that we don't want to do. I want to do blues stuff. I want to be a great band. I want to be on the Johnny Carson show.
We don't want to do Pepsi commercials.
No, I was offered a Pepsi commercial, and that's one of the things I decided not to do. I'm not a Pepsi commercial actor. What we want to do is just do what we want to do. And really, the choices are just so wide that it's hard to narrow them down. There's a few things that we don't want to be. I don't want to be a Republican. I don't want to go into Clark. I don't want to, well, I don't know. Being one might be fun. But, we have a series of goals and a sense of what we do. But still, we make most decisions by, sure, why not?
It seems ever since your records first became popular, the critics are drawing parallels between you and the Byrds and Jefferson Airplane and Hot Tuna, that sort of thing. Is that really anything to do with reality?
I can hear, after having it drummed into my head for the past 3 years, I can hear a little bit of the Byrds in there, but certainly not on any effort on our part. We don't deliberately try to sound like anyone, and the Byrds were not real big favorites of any of ours. I grew up listening to Top 40 radio in the 60s, and so naturally I heard the hits, Turn, 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 Mr. Tambourine Man, sure, but, they had nothing to do with my decision to be a musician or the way I play bass or the way Peter plays guitar. I think rather we just have a similar sensibility and similar musical taste to people like Roger McGuinn and stuff like that. I think if we'd been around in the 60s, we would have sounded like them. There's some things that are hard to understand, but we don't want to spell things out. We try to make things a little bit, so when you listen to it for the 10th time, assuming you listen to it that much, there will be something there for you to pull out of it that you didn't get the first time.
I've been reading recently all kinds of rave reviews about REM. It seems all the critics are shoveling masses of accolades on top of you. Is that very hard to deal with?
No, because we know better. I feel like the reason they kind of leap on our bandwagon so much is because they're glad to see an alternative to the glut of British syntho-pop stuff. And they perceive us as the viable alternative, so they rave about us.
Is there anything of a Southern tradition in what you do? The American critics are anxious to find in you a very strong Southern American tradition. Is that an invention of theirs?
As far as the music goes, there's not, a whole lot of Southern identity in our music, other than the fact that we are real familiar with country music, as you have to be if you grew up in the South, and we subconsciously assimilate some of that into some of our stuff. We do some Velvet Underground covers that come out sounding country instead of the way they did them, and we didn't mean for that to happen. It just comes out that way.
Dream, 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 dream.
For a town this size, there's an inordinate number of bands. I mean, I don't know, hundreds. It's certainly not anything special, but it's kind of neat. There are a lot of bands, a lot of places to play, a lot of ways to break into the business without really having a career. I mean, they're mostly kids just screwing around, And that's great. That's what we were.
Lifestyle.
We have found a way to talk around the problem, building towers for siders and anything at all. By the sky and sell the sky, leave the sky and sell the sky.
Why not lip sync?
The first video that we ever made, which thankfully is not on the video compilation, I agreed to lip sync, which is where you're very familiar with it, I'm sure. It's where they play a song and you stand there and pretend like you're singing and your mouth moves and you put a lot of emotion into it, and I couldn't hack that. The closest I guess I ever came was probably on the video to South Central Rain, but I was actually singing that at that time.
A near brush with this.
A near brush with lip syncing. If you were to say that videos are not commercials, you would be lying to yourself. If you were to say that this is not a commercial, then you'd be lying to yourself. Every aspect of this has to do with having something and wanting to get it across to people. And in most cases, they're going to pay money for it, or they're going to barter with you for it. I think that the other band members and myself didn't like that aspect of videos. Still carry a lot of aggression towards it, but I've always looked at it as a way of being able to get across the more visual part of REM. And if you can make a video without compromising yourself, without giving into the look that people want, they may never play it on TV, but you've made it and it's there. I like using film. I like the visual. I'm very visually oriented, and so, to me, especially this album, the reason it's called Document is it's kind of a shortening of the word documentary, which is a reference to film. I think it's a very filmic album. I had the opportunity to work with these people, and I thought I'd jump at it. The album is pretty much about, I guess it's kind of been tied in with the work ethic, which, if you think of the American work ethic, it can be a very ugly thing, but a lot of the songs deal with misunderstanding of work as kind of a replacement for feeling or a repression of feeling. So this is kind of a rebuttal to that and an alteration on it. Does that make sense? Okay, I'll walk off. I would say that if there's a motto that, that went along with film, that went along with recording music, that I've repeated to myself over and over again, it would be courage and clarity in thought and statement and intent and action.
It's an apocalyptic nightmare. It's Michael Stipe's 115th Dream or something.
A Dylan reference.
Yes, to all those Dylanologists out there. Alan Weberman would have got it. At first I hated it. Now I really like it. It's just a collection of images and just thrown all away because it's the end of the world.
He couldn't think of a melody, so he said, well, I'll just go for chaos here, and I'll just spit it all out.
So once he started getting chaotic, I figured, well, why don't I get chaotic too? So I did all the feedback and offbeat things. And I think it's some kind of Muslim religion where there's 8 million names of God, and if they're all said, the world ends. Well, that's kind of what happened if we have a hit single. I mean, I think the world will just end.
The first single is called The One I Love. Can I have that? Thanks. And we did a video to it, even though most of the Peter and Mike and Bill don't much like videos, but I like film a lot, and it's kind of my way of honing my teeth with making videos for the band, and, they're fun. Robert Longo.
Robert Longo, New York filmmaker extraordinaire, did it. Came down and took a bunch of images. Everybody in it. The great thing is, yes, he likes it. The great thing is, everybody in it, we used real pretty girls for the first time, and it's like, oh, they're going to go, oh, they got models and real pretty, but they're all friends of ours, so I figured it was okay. And
don't worry, we know all these girls.
We know all these girls, don't you worry. and I think it's really neat. It's just a bunch of images all over each other, and it's really cool.
He doesn't take himself real seriously as a filmmaker. I mean, he's an artist and everything like that, but it's also kind of a fun thing, and he's not real. It's not Eisenstein or Fellini. I mean, he does a good job, and it's entertaining to work with him. He made it real painless for us, partially by not having us in it.
Is making videos often a painful experience for you?
I hate them. I don't like to be filmed. I don't like to have my picture taken.
We're not actors, so why try?
The less I'm in, the better, as far as I can, because I don't want to mime to the song. And you don't want to have something that illustrates the song, like lyrically, line by line.
It's a stupid story.
You kind of go with kind of like a moody montage of stuff, which is neat. I mean, Michael likes those too. He's really good at kind of putting together these videos, which doesn't necessarily relate to the song, but I don't want to have a little play about this or that. I hate it when it's like a boy and a girl acting in the movie.
And the bits at the beginning, 5 minutes of setting up the storyline, that really, I can't stand that either.
Yeah, I also kind of sick of seeing my face on TV and stuff.
Yeah, me too.
Well, then
Thanks, Mike. I have this little vote of confidence here.
This one goes out to the one I love.
It's being able to get on stage or being able to get in front of people and people sing in their showers, whether they're good or bad. And, I happen to have a good voice, but I didn't know that for 7 years, so I just was kind of doing it. Now I know it. So that's that.
Well, your performance stance has really changed. I remember the first time we shot REM, you were on stage with a headband across your eyes, and when you finally took it off, you were very still and addressed the microphone rather than anything else. And now it seems like that you almost embraced the stage in a way.
I had a headband across my eyes?
Yeah.
I think I was blinded then.
No. Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Did I wear it the whole night?
No, you took it off.
Were my eyes closed?
No.
There was a period of time where I wasn't able to see, and so I just had to keep things over my eyes because the lights would cripple me.
From a lot of the things that I know you've been involved with, it's a lot of black and white movement with the camera, and we don't ever get to see the band. It's almost like people would get hungry to say, no, stand still because I want to look at who you are. Yeah. But you never allow us that.
I'm fond of movement, and I'm fond of light. I think that the band is kind of uncomfortable as a group with being filmed for a variety of reasons and really too complicated to go into, but one being that none of us look that great in front of a camera, me maybe more than the other guys. They're usually willing, but I think that with the videos, we're not that interested in projecting ourselves as personalities into them so much as to get across an idea and to not really cloud the song up with such a strong visual image that you're not going to be able to listen to the song without seeing it. I think that's a really important thing. It's something where videos in the past, and they continue in this tradition that is kind of a very sophomoric one, to put so much overlap of image and such strong image and such really dumb cliches into the videos that you're unable really to hear the song and just hear it and kind of use your own imagery. And that's something that we kind of try to avoid. It's a real hard call, you know, it's kind of a catch-22. And I like film a lot and I like to work with it. And the other guys don't mind it too much, it seems. Do I have any food on my teeth?
No, I think it's fine.
Hello, I'm sorry I lost myself. I think I thought you were someone else.
I think the idea that the record is more personal comes from the fact that I'm using more first-person singular in the songs. It's I and you. It's I. World Leader Pretend, Inside Out, Hair Shirt, rather than we, which was used a lot on documentary and tended towards almost anthemic, kind of caustic vitriol, rather than a more personal thing. The personal, it's really important to point out, I think, that it's not necessarily me. I'm not setting up characters like, say, Tom Waits might do, but it's much more outside of me than that. I would say that if there's a word that best describes the entire album as a package, as a whole, that it's the title, Green. It says it all for me.
You use the globe, the idea of the world, a lot in your videos. A number of the videos have globes, children in them. Is it symbolic in any way?
It's a pretty universal symbol, the globe. Yeah. As our children, and they're pretty simple, pretty simplistic, really open to interpretation, but very specific in that interpretation. So I really admire that. I tend to move towards the elements and the adjectives, beauty and evil and ugly, that people can connect with really in their own way. I think that's important. Without writing mindless music and without writing music that is simply for kind of a bacchanalian release. I think that uplifting is a very strong thematic movement in our music this year, and hopefully it'll carry over into other things. I'm constantly making demands, and I don't always meet them, but I would say that I'm pretty skilled and pretty deft. Are those supposed to say that?
Now stand in the place where you were. Now face west, the place where you live. Wonder why you haven't before. Stand in the place where you are. Stand in the place where you are. You stand in the place where you are. On the ground. Your head in the place where you are. Around, so stand.
There was some time off that you spent after Document. Did you do everything you wanted to do in that time? Was it long enough? What did you do?
That's a loaded question. We just wanted to mainly not tour for a while, because touring is something that is so hard, it has to be fun. And if you get sick of it to the point where it's no fun, then it's almost impossible to make yourself do it. And I wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't want to lose the fun of it. You know, I always want it to be fun, or I just don't even want to do it. So we just had to basically get away from that, maybe kind of get away from each other, step back and maybe take a new approach, you know, which turned out to be things like the mandolin, and start messing around with different instruments, just kind of a reassessment. because we were at a point where we had done everything we could think of up to that point, and we needed to find some new things to do. So I think that was as much the reason as anything else.
There was surprise and speculation when you guys went from IRS to Warner's. Do you want to tell us what the reasons were?
Well, it was just kind of a time for a change. Regardless of what anybody thinks, it wasn't the money. I mean, we could have gotten great money from any record label, including IRS. It was just more of a, I don't know, sometimes you just want to do something different. Sometimes you want to have a totally new approach.
IRS was a great company, and it was a hard separation, but I think the idea of maybe being promoted overseas a little more strongly was a big part of it.
Yeah,
It was a little disheartening to get over there, and you go to Germany, there's not posters at all. You played 200 people, and they're like American GIs that are stationed over and stuff. There just wasn't a whole lot of cooperation there, so that was a big part of it.
I tried to sing along.
It is a front man and a pop singer for REM.